Good afternoon, everyone. I'm super excited to talk to you all this afternoon about my project, which was conceptualizing a student voter ambassador program. And I am currently a coordinator at Carnegie Mellon University, located in Pittsburgh. And I work in the Office of Student Leadership, Involvement, and Civic Engagement on our campus. And we're housed within the Division of Student Affairs. And so my position helps to focus on the civic engagement portion of our title. And so voter engagement is one of those pieces. On the next slide, I'll give you a little preview just into kind of how I arrived at this topic for my project specifically. A couple of the things that I have been reflecting on since I have been in this position, which has been a little over a year now, was specifically on our campus, the work in our voter engagement, voter education efforts and programming on campus had really been centralized to a core group of kind of 4 to 5 students. And when we were thinking about how do we go from here, thinking about our all-in action plan and some of the goals and outcomes that we are hoping to achieve from that, one of the things that we were really trying to do was help to kind of expand beyond this core group of 4 to 5 students who had been doing this work. So I was reflecting on how can we start to really do a lot of capacity building and help spread the momentum and get other students involved in the process. One of the other things that is sometimes challenging about our institution is that we often have students who have a desire to get involved, but struggle with the kind of larger time commitment that sometimes programs will require. So, some institutions may have a fellow program or, kind of be involved in some of those larger national organizations. And often our students who just don't have the time to be able to commit 30 hours a semester or kind of this like larger chunk. And so thinking about how we are still involving students who may have 5 hours a semester, 10 hours a semester, who still want to get involved and thinking about what that could look like for them. And then finally, thinking also a lot about peer-to-peer education, kind of a train-the-trainer approach, which is something that we're really implementing in our larger civic engagement programming at the institution, but thinking about how we can do that here as well. So I was reflecting on those pieces coming into this project. And then on the next slide, we'll show a little bit just about the process that I took to get to the draft of the project that we will talk about this afternoon. I started doing a benchmarking on current kind of similar types of voter ambassador programs that existed. And then from there, I also held 2 listening sessions with that core group of students who's currently serving on our strategic planning committee, and bounced some ideas back and forth with them, really prototyped this idea to see what would be helpful, what incentives they feel like would be useful for students. And so took all of their feedback into consideration, and then also workshopped it out to both the director of my office as well as our colleagues in governmental relations as well. Their work certainly dovetails into this also in terms of the work that they are doing with local candidates, and so also wanted to get their feedback as well. Then from there, on the next slide, you can see the kind of timeline of where I am going from here. So, we have the draft of this outline. Again, I'm hoping to be able to pilot it in the fall, do a lot of prototyping and assessment work to figure out what is working, what is not working, and then be able to tweak it going forward into the following spring semester and beyond. Next slide, Maddie. So to go over a little bit about what this program then looks like. So on the next slide, I'll give you kind of an overview again of the kind of main concept that we were thinking about. Certainly thinking about our institution as well as thinking about how other institutions might be able to adapt this program. One of the things that we are focused on is thinking about this from a kind of volunteer perspective. Again, thinking about students who, maybe doing 5 hours a semester, but, obviously, wanting to be able to pay them, but thinking about how we could also do the program if funding, was not available for it. In terms of outreach and recruitment strategies for the program, certainly obviously focused on students who have an interest in voter engagement, but also thinking about students who are interested in public service writ large, other leadership development, professional networking opportunities that could be tied into the program as well. Again, with the goal of being able to increase the capacity of not only our programming, but really also the momentum and energy and enthusiasm around voter engagement on our campus. Next slide, Maddie, thank you. So these are examples when I was thinking about different types of projects that we would have these students to do. Certainly, we are thinking about them again as helping with that larger education of voter registration and voter education on campus, thinking about them as just being able to volunteer at voter registration drives. Again, knowing that those will be organized by our student voter coalition, our graduate student assembly, but that they often need support. And, those, again, that kind of core group of 4 to 5 students is not always able, to table as often as they want given their schedule. And so having these ambassador students be able to help with that, and again, kind of widen our capacity there. One of the other things that I am hoping to be able to add into this program is during particularly the 2020 election cycle, before I started in this position, our office received over 30 requests from faculty members across campus who wanted someone from our office to come in and talk about voting to their classes. They were interested in the idea, wanted to, talk about voter education, how to get, students registered to vote, but didn't feel that they were maybe the right person to do that. And so thinking about how we are actually going to be able to equip these students to be able to have these kind of mini sessions across campus, not only in faculty classrooms, but also thinking about how they're able to do that in student organizations, residence hall floors, et cetera. Those could range again from how do I make a voting plan to even thinking about topics like redistricting and other things that are happening in the larger political landscape as well. We're hoping that these students will be able to engage in kind of peer-to-peer programming, thinking about peer-to-peer text banking models, and again, being able to kind of, help expand conversations across campus to get more, folks involved. And then also being able to, to utilize them for things like social media content creation, kind of quick videos and other things that we will be able to publish on our social media pages and our office, as well as other pages across the institution too. And then on the next slide, thinking a little bit more about the other components of the program, we spent some time thinking about incentives that we could offer students. Again, if funding wasn't a resource that we'd be able to provide them. A couple of our colleges at our campus have a requirement of experiential learning credit for students. They have to complete a certain number of hours prior to graduation. So I'm in conversation right now with our colleagues across campus to see if being a part of this program would be able to count for some of those. Certainly other students have to do service hours if they're a part of our fraternity sorority life, for example, and so being able to have this, be a component for those types of programs. Thinking about other pieces, of course, like celebratory dinners. Our colleagues in governmental relations often do meet and greets with candidates, and they bring them to campus. And so having these students be able to be a part of those and get kind of some special invitations to other things like that on campus that would be, of interest. And of course, thinking about, branded swag that would help be able to publish and market out the program as well. We will certainly be training these students, kind of depending upon the activity that they are doing. Obviously, that will look a little bit differently if they're helping to volunteer at a voter registration drive versus, again, maybe facilitating one of those mini sessions. My colleagues in governmental relations are going to be a part of that training. They have an interest in helping to be able to, talk about, the work with students, the work that they are doing, and kind of, this kind of larger education. And so they will be, pulled into the training that we will be creating out. Students will be signing up just via a very short Google form. It's very, very basic, but just our way of being able to, track who those students are, and then we will have them track their activities through some type of, online tracker. And then from there, we will be able to share out on social media and recognize, the work that they are doing as well. And then finally, on the next slide is just the resources that I have built out and I'm in the process of building out for this program. So right now, I built out the overview of the program. I have language for graphics that will be a part of this. I've created the Google form for signups, which also exists in the folder. And then in the process of creating the tracker form, and then I'm also going to, share out the training content that we create as well, if that's helpful for folks just to kind of get a sense of the training that we are using for this program. And I think that is the end of my presentation. Yes, so certainly answer questions and or any feedback that folks have.